afternoon, class. This is your English teacher, Dr. Narendra Kumar from K.B.N College, Autonomous, Vijayawada. As a part of our learning, today I am going to talk to you about an essay that was prescribed to students of degree. That was exclusively prescribed to students of second year degree, first unit, entitled How to Avoid Foolish Opinions. You might have already have an awareness about the syllabus that was given unto you. The course that you are going to learn for your second semester is entitled as a course in reading and writing skills. In that, we are going to look at the first essay written by philosopher Bertrand Russell, How to Avoid Foolish Opinions. Class, you know what opinion is all about. Besides opinion, you also know what foolish opinions are all about. Am I right? Foolish opinion in the sense, let me help you. There are opinions which are quite accepted by majority of the people. There are some opinions which appear to be foolish to a majority of people. On what basis do we consider certain opinions as foolish and certain opinions as accepted opinions? This is something that we need to learn, that we are supposed to learn today. I do know that you have an idea what opinion is all about. Opinion and suggestion is quite different, my dear students. Opinion is something that opinion mean what I feel about a particular object, a particular person, a particular thing, and a particular event is what I call opinion. Suggestion is something when somebody is in deep crisis, when somebody is in need of a piece of advice. The suggestion that I offer, the suggestion that you offer is what we call suggestion. So at the very outset, at the very beginning, we are supposed to be keen about what opinion is and what suggestion is all about. We come across good number of people throwing good number of opinions, but decision is unto us personally. Today, let me not elaborate what opinion is all about and what decision is all about, but let us look at few suggestions that were offered how to avoid foolish opinions that we come across in our day-to-day life. So we are going to look at suggestions that were offered by a learned philosopher and a mathematician, none else but Bertrand Russell. And the essay that he has written was entitled as How to Avoid Foolish Opinions. Let us see, let's go further and let us learn what he suggests us. Well, looking at Bertrand Russell, a short idea or a short discussion about philosopher Bertrand Russell. Philosopher Bertrand Russell, he was born in 1872 and died in 1970. He offers some advice which will not keep us from all error, but will help us navigate away from obvious errors. This is what in very keen. We need to understand that we do know that Bertrand Russell, right, he was a mathematician. Besides a mathematician, he was also a great philosopher. And he was conferred with a Nobel Prize also for his works in philosophy and mathematics. Now, this article or the essay is an elaborative essay where he tries to present around 5 pieces of advice that helps not only students but even a normal flock how to avoid foolish opinions. At the outset, we need to understand how to recognize that an opinion is foolish. Unless until we recognize an opinion to be foolish, we can't come to a conclusion that it is a foolish opinion, and we cannot follow the suggestion that was offered by. Well, now let's look at one after the other, there are around 5 suggestions offered by Bertrand Russell to the student flock in order to understand, in order to recognize, in order to be cautious about certain opinions, certain beliefs that exist in the day-to-day world in our living society. Look, the slide that you are able to look at presents you 5 suggestions or 5 pieces of suggestions that were offered by Bertrand Russell. Looking at the first, he says, when you come across a certain opinion, think, he says, make the observation yourself. If it is a question that can be answered through observation. What does he mean by this? He says, if something can be understood by a personal observation, it is good to go on a personal observation rather than relying upon some other's opinion. It is okay that you have received an opinion from somebody. Well, somebody has opined about a task that you are going to do. You felt that you are in a dilemma whether to take his opinion to granted or not. He says, if that opinion that was offered by somebody else, if that can be understood or if that can be solved by means of observation, then Bertrand says it is good to go on personal visit and observe rather than relying on someone's opinion. That is what he says. Make the observation yourself if it is a question that can be answered through observation. Coming to the second opinion, he says, if you get upset when someone holds a different opinion, then it may be an indication that you are aware deep down that your beliefs are unjustified. You had a deep-rooted belief within you, and in order to move further, you went to somebody to seek their opinion. But when the opinion offered by him looks vague to you, or if that upsets your own opinion, he says, be quiet. Be quiet. Try not to be justifying them. Well, if you get upset when someone holds a different opinion than yours, he says it may be an indication that you are aware deep down that your beliefs are unjustified. Well, then coming to the third, he says, recognizing the views held by others in social circles that are different from your own is a smart method to get rid of some dogmatism. As a suggestion, he talks about dogmatism, and he says how to understand, how to recognize that it is a dogmatic belief, and how to subdue that simply, how to overcome that. He says, recognizing the views held by others in social circles apart from your social circle. Well, is a smart method to get rid of some dogmatism, because an opinion that was offered to you or an incident that you have come across made you to think about what sort of belief is this. You may feel bad about the opinion or bad about the suggestion that was offered you, and you thought that it is a dogmatic belief. When you felt that it is a dogmatic belief, don't confine yourself unless until you are exposed to a widened society, my dear students. That is what he says. Recognizing the views held by others in social circles. The area of your understanding may be a bit when compared to the area of understanding of other people. The arena that you are in may be smaller in comparison to others' arena. So when you come to know that the social beliefs that a particular people have appears to be dogmatism, don't confine yourself to be to mark them as a dogmatic or dogmatic beliefs, but try to study others' other beliefs or other opinions that are being held in other social circles, other societies of people. That's what he says. Coming to the fourth, it is a good idea to picture yourself in an argument with someone who has a different bias, for people who have enough psychological imagination. He says, when you come across an article, when you come across an opinion, when you come across an idea presented by somebody, you may argue, you may try to argue that idea or a presentation offered by somebody, right? But try to remember, the suggestion or the article that you are going to read or an essay that you are supposed to read was written by a person who was no more now. When you are reading about somebody who is no more now, let us not try to comment upon his suggestions, upon his opinions or beliefs, because he is no more in front of us. If you wish to understand his inner idea, then he says it is good to have a psychological imagination. Imagine that you are in that particular person's position. Imagine that situation. Imagine that day, that particular period, that society, and try to overcome your belief. That's what he says. So try to be a person of psychological imagination in order to understand or in order to get rid of somebody's opinion which you felt a foolish opinion. And coming to the fifth, he says, be extremely cautious. Be careful while listening to opinions that boost up your self-esteem. You know, a great dramatist, Shakespeare, in one of his writings, say Twelfth Night, a drama named Twelfth Night, a romantic comedy. In that he says, he comes across a character and the character says, if music be the food of love, play on. There is another character where he says, flattery is the food of fools. He says, flattery is the food of fools. In the sense, there are a good number of people who tries to picturize their opinion as the best opinion to be followed. This can be done by boosting up your self-esteem. There are people, we know not that they are hypocrites. Well, they boost up, they talk, they are talkative, they talk something which you are not. The tendency of human being is, though we know what we are, we try to fall upon, we try, right, we give ourselves to the opinions that flatter us. So finally he says, be extremely cautious while listening to opinions that boost your self-esteem. Now, come on, dear students, let us look at each of the opinion that was offered by Russell in detail. Look at the first. He says, in order to get rid of foolish opinion, the first suggestion is, make the observation yourself. In this, he talks about a decision, or he talks about an idea that was presented by Aristotle. Once upon a time, Aristotle, you know, a great philosopher, Aristotle is a great philosopher, he said, women have fewer teeth when compared to men. He said, women have fewer teeth when compared to men. But when came to reality, when came to real observation, people came to know that that's wrong. The statement that was offered by Aristotle is completely wrong. Being a philosopher, he had given a wrong opinion, a wrong idea. When questioned, he said, I felt, I thought. That was a flaw. That is the reason he says, Bertrand Russell says, thinking that you know when in fact you don't is a fatal mistake to which we are all prone. This is true. Many of us, we feel that we know without going for an observation, without testing, without trying our own self. We don't try many things our own self, but we rely upon somebody else. When somebody says that a particular dish is good, we don't even taste that, but when somebody accompanies you to a dining, to dinner, when they ask you, how does this dish taste? Without having a prior knowledge about that, you have heard from somebody that this is okay, but you have not ever tasted that. And you come to a conclusion, you say that, yeah, that tastes good. Have you ever tasted that? But when in reality, when your friend takes your opinion for granted, and if he orders the dish, if he tastes that and if he feels this is not good, then what do? So he says, it's good if certain things can be judged, or if certain opinions can be framed out by making our self-observation. It is good to observe by our own self. Well, so basing on this, author Bertrand Russell, he says, I have heard about hedgehogs, and I heard that they like eating black beetles a lot. The delicious dish that hedgehogs fall upon is black beetles. This is an opinion offered, or this is an opinion given by one of his friends. He says, if I am supposed to write a book on the habits and lifestyle of hedgehog, I don't blindly give a statement that hedgehogs eat black beetles deliciously. No. Unless until I observe, unless until I watch a hedgehog being satisfied, or a hedgehog happily being fed on black beetles. So what he tries to say is, make the observation yourself when there is a time, when there is a chance, rather than relying blindly and bluntly upon some other's opinion. And further he moves, he says, when he read different articles of ancient and medieval authors, most of the ancient and medieval authors, they wrote about unicorns and salamanders. Without their personal experiences on unicorns, they don't know whether unicorns exist or not. But Greek mythologies, ancient and medieval authors, they have talked a lot about unicorns and salamanders. But in recent times, we came to know that salamanders really exist. But how about unicorns? This is what? It is good if things can be traced out, sorted out by means of observation. It is good that we to fall upon observation rather than relying on some other's opinion blindly and bluntly. This is the first idea that offered by him. Coming to the second, if you get upset when someone holds a different opinion than you had an opinion, and when you went for some other's opinion, and the opinion that was offered by him find quite opposite to your opinion, he says, don't get upset. It may be an indication that you are aware deep down that your beliefs are unjustified. So you need to know, you need to think about, okay, maybe I am wrong, or maybe he is. But don't come to a conclusion. Think. Have a deep exploration. For example, when we sit in front of an arithmetician, we know only mathematics, but we have no idea about arithmetics. But when we come across an arithmetician, he may say, 2 plus 2 is equal to 5. As a mathematician, you may be upset because 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. But an arithmetician, he can justify how 2 plus 2 is equal to 5. We don't know that he is an arithmetician, but we know only mathematics. And when he says 2 plus 2 is equal to 5, we are really upset and we look at him as an insane. In the same, right? When we talk about persecution also, we don't know on what basis did earlier governments or kings persecuted people in a large or a huge amount. To make it very clear, we need to understand that in arithmetic there is knowledge. Wherein in theology, it is just an opinion. Arithmetic can be proved, but theology, he says, it's an opinion. It's one's opinion. There is no logic in setting people to their death. There is no logic in persecuting or in massacring a large amount of people at a time. Persecution is just an opinion, whereas arithmetic is confined to knowledge. So, whenever you find yourself getting angry about different in opinions, he says, be on your guard. Be on your guard. Think. Then we go further. Well, coming to another idea, he says, recognizing the views held by others in a social circle that are different from your own is a smart method to get rid of some dogmatic beliefs. He talks about dogmatism, and he says, when you come to know that an opinion that was held by you is different by other social circles. Recognizing the views held by others in social circles that are different from your own is a smart method to get rid of some dogmatism. For example, we know Black Moon Day, you know, right? In Telugu, we call it as Amavasya. People in Andhra Pradesh or Telangana, they don't try to do anything on a Black Moon Day and a Dark Moon Day. Am I right? But the same old day is observed, is taken for granted in the very adjacent state of Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu. They believe that it is a wonderful day to start a new business, to have any startups. Look at that. Our belief is that is a day which is to be abandoned. That is a day which we are supposed not to do anything. But the same old day, they believe the day is good, but we believe the day, they believe the day as sacred. We believe it as a fool's day. We believe it is a dark day to do nothing. Well, if such things comes across, if you come across such beliefs, don't confine that your belief is a sacred belief and their belief is a dogmatic belief. No, until you are wide open, exposed to right opinions or beliefs or practices of people in other social circles. That's very important, my dear student. So if the people, so for that he says, in order to understand that in K.B.N, he says, sit in front of a person who doesn't agree with your opinion and talk to him for a while. For how long would you like to talk to him? Not for an hour, nor even for a period of 10 minutes, right? Because he appears to you as an insane. At the same time, for him, we too appear the same as an insane. So if the people, next, the second thing he says, take a newspaper. For example, you belong to a party. Read a newspaper that was published by your opposite party and go through the newspaper. Whatever the news that you read, you don't agree with the newspaper. The reason is your party is quite different from their opponent party. Am I right? Their opinion, the opinion that was offered by them, or the news that you read in your opponent party's paper may not make you happy. Well, it may not seem good to you. It may not appear a blissful thing to you. That's what. If the people in the newspaper seem mad, perverse and wicked, remind and remember yourself that you seem so to them. You seem so to them. When I felt you to be an insane, you too feel that I'm an insane. Obviously. Well, in this opinion, to make it very clear, both the parties may be right, but they cannot both be wrong all the time. Well, they may be right, but they may be wrong, but not both at a time. That's what. But they cannot both be wrong. This reflection should generate a certain caution that we need to expand our knowledge. We need to study about people that are present in different social circles. right? The food habits that we have are quite different from the food habits that other people have. The belief that we have about a particular day, about a particular person, the deities that we have, the way we worship may be different from the way the other people worship. But remember, let it not be a dogmatic belief to you, because it appears to be a dogmatism only unless you know their practices, unless we have a knowledge about their practices. If not, every opinion that contraries to your opinion may appear to be dogmatic. So we need to be cautious about this. Next, he also says, continuing, becoming aware of foreign customer. However, it may not always be a beneficial effect to you, dear students. As I told you, it is better to have an idea about social beliefs, customs of different people present in different social circles. India, we have different ethnic groups of people living in India from different backgrounds, from different varied religions, varied customs and traditions. My custom and my tradition might appear to be foolish to another person who is adjacent to me. Their practices, their forefathers' practices that they have inculcated may appear dogmatism to me. My practices may appear dogmatic belief to them. Well, it is good to have an idea, but you need to understand that becoming aware of foreign customs, social customs and beliefs of other circles, however, does not always have a beneficial effect. In order to support his idea, he gives a wonderful example. That is, in 17th century, China, when it was conquered by Manchus, at time of conquering China, Chinese ladies have the practice of, Chinese women has a practice of having small feet. And Manchus, before conquering China, men have the tendency of wearing pigtails at their back, as you can look at these pictures over here. Right, Queen dynasty here. Well, but Manchus, after conquering China, Chinese have not given up the practice of, Chinese women have not given up the practice of small foot. Besides, China, they learnt the practice of having pigtails like Manchus, and Manchus, instead of dropping their habit, they inhabited the habit of Chinese women having a practice of small foot. Manchus women started to practice having small foot, and Chinese men, they started to practice having pigtails. What do we do this? Well, so this is what. So, an opinion contrary to you may appear the same to other. So, be mindful about that. Coming to the fourth. It is a good idea to picture yourself in an argument with someone who has a different bias, for people who have enough psychological imagination. In this, we need to know the practices, the mindset, the way, the attitude. Actually, what I can clearly say is attitude is very important in order to understand this. The author says, attitude of an Indian may be quite different from the attitude of a Western. The way we look at things are quite different by the way a Westerner look at. Not only just, instead of going far away to Western country, let us talk about attitudes that we have. People, how attitudes differ within our ethnic groups of people in and around. The way we look at things may be different the way the other look at things. No two children born from the same old womb think about the same, look at things in the same manner. So for that he says, you may never have an opinion of actually meeting anyone who holds the opinion that you have. Because in Western countries, most people take the advantage of modern technique for granted. For example, in the present era, most of the people, they are attracted and they are trying to inhabit the new modern techniques and modern culture instead of relying and trusting upon traditional method of doing a thing, traditional way of setting a thing, traditional way of doing certain core. Well, for this generation, if older people, the way they do things, when observed by the present generation may mock at the way our ancestors or elder people do, because the present generation, they are a bit habituated to a modern techniques. They may curse the techniques that are being adopted, that are being still used by elder people, right? Because elder people, they were very much confined with their practices. They believed that their practices, they believed that their tasks are reliable and trustworthy, that works. But the modern generation, to make it very clear, they are inexperienced, but they are educated. That is what they feel. They are educated, and they say, as Western country people believe, that they take advantage of modern techniques for granted. But older people, when they are supposed to adopt a modern technique, they don't try to adopt it as fast as a youngster today are going to do those things. For example, let us say, the gadgets that we use, mobile phone. The present generation has a wonderful idea about this. But your grandfathers at your home, your grandmothers, they are not that quite confirmed. They are not that fast, am I right, in using this. They are okay with that, but they are not that ease with that. Am I right? They are not comfortable with that. Well, in that, keeping that in your mind, let's go a bit further. But if you want to make sure that you are right in agreeing with the prevailing opinion, you will find it a good plan to test the arguments that occur to you by considering what Gandhiji might say in refutation of them. This is a paragraph which talks about industrial revolution. A time of industrial revolution. When we read about Mahatma Gandhi, Gandhi was a stern opposer of industrial revolution. But the modern people today, when they read Gandhiji opposing industrial revolution, they may feel that Gandhiji is an enemy for industrial revolution. But no. Unless until we sit in front of Gandhi, unless until we talk to Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi, we can't understand that we don't know why exactly he stood against industrial revolution. Because those were the days. Those were the days where there was a huge amount of labor. Those were the days, that people were living. Those were the days where people were living under drought, in the sense below poverty level. There were companies which used to offer job for them. They used to eke their livelihood. And they used to live a moderate life with their family members. But at that, as days are rolling on, suddenly there came an industrial revolution where man was substituted by a machine. So Mahatma Gandhi felt man will lose employability. As a result, poverty will grow in a huge line. But Western people, their ideology is quite different. That is why they felt Mahatma Gandhi as a stern opposer of industrial revolution. They felt that Mahatma Gandhi is an enemy for growth. But no, Mahatma Gandhi felt when people lack employability, automatically poverty line will grow down deeper and deeper. As a result, society will lose its existence. True. Right? This is a deep-rooted belief that we need to think about when we go deeper into that. Well, coming to the final thing, he says, be very wary of opinions that flatter your self-esteem. It is more difficult to deal with the self-esteem. We know self-esteem in the sense when a man stands in front of a woman, he says, "Man are mightier than women." When women comes across another woman, she says, "Women are the stealthiest and strongest, wisest than men." Everybody has their own self-esteem, but here he says, having self-esteem is okay, but be mindful of people flattering your own self-esteem. Be very wary of opinion that flatter your self-esteem. It is more difficult to deal with self-esteem of a man as man because we cannot argue out the matter with some non-human mind. Both men and women, 9 times out of 10, are firmly convinced of the superior excellence of their own sex. As a man, I may say that men are superior. As a women says, women are not inferior to men. Women are also superior. This is what? Both men and women, 9 times out of 10, are firmly convinced of the superior excellence of their own sex. There is abundant evidence on both sides even. This is what we need to. Well, if you are a man, remember, you cannot point out that most poets, you can point out that most poets and men of science are male. If you are a woman, you can retort, you can subdue, you can overcome. You can simply say that so are most criminals, The question is inherently insoluble, but we need to understand. But self-esteem conceals this from most of the people. I know what I am. Besides having a keen idea about what I am, when I come across a person who flatters about himself, I don't just listen to him. I try to boast about myself even. Being, right? This is what? The question is inherently insoluble. But self-esteem conceals this from most people. We are all, whatever part of the world we come from, persuaded that our own nation is superior to all nations. This is another example that clearly talks about our self-esteem. When you have been to another country, leaving India, when there is a discussion in front of a native person, you hail from India and he stays and he is a native over there. When there is a discussion, at some point of discussion you hail that Mera Bharat Mahan. Am I right? Everybody has a superior opinion about their own nation. We all, whatever part of the world we come from, persuaded that our own nation is superior to all others. This is what we believe. We are here just to eke our livelihood, but that doesn't mean I subdue my nation. No, my nation is superior when compared to a nation. This is what we say. The only way I know of dealing with this general human conceit is to remind ourselves that man is a brief episode in the life of a small planet in a little corner of this huge universe. We need to understand that we are a small creature on the face of this earth. There are mighty things. So when we come to know about this, we are quite quick. When we understand this truth, automatically, well, we'll be mindful about our self-esteem. We'll be mindful about ourselves. So, my dear students, these are wonderful opinions being offered by Bertrand Russell. Before concluding, let me sum up once again. There are 5 suggestions offered by him in order to be cautious about foolish opinions. First, he says, if things can be sorted out by observation, it's better not to rely upon any other's opinions, but just make observation and come to your confirmation and come to confirmation. Right? Make observation on your own. Secondly, he says, if you find that your opinion is different from other, don't get upset Don't get nervous. Don't get angry. Be quiet. Because your opinion even leaves the same old impression on the mindset of other person. And coming to the third, don't come to a conclusion when looking at somebody's beliefs as a dogmatic belief. Now, be wary, have an idea about opinions existing, customs, views that appear in other social circles also. It's good to know about your social circle, about your tradition and culture. In the same way, it is better to know others' traditions and cultures before mocking at them. Well, next, coming to the fourth, he says, it's a good idea to picture yourself in an argument with someone who has a different bias for people who have enough psychological imagination. You have went through an article where you have not directly in encounter with a person. Well, but when you are going through an article, when you feel that the opinion that the article that the writer has is quite different from you. Imagine that you are arguing with the person in front of you who has written that article. And then imagine yourself in that position, empathizing. Sorry, not to say empathize, but imagine yourself in that position. You talk to them, then you will understand. And coming to the fifth, be extremely cautious, be careful while listening to opinions that boost up your self-esteem. Don't fall into the boostings of some other when you know who you are. Trust yourself, observe on your own, try to explore the society, try to travel. The author traveled a lot. That is why he says, I can't say certain beliefs are dogmatic, because he traveled a lot. He says, maybe their opinion, maybe their belief, it is their belief. It is not a dogmatism. How can I confine that it is a dogmatic belief? My belief is quite different. That doesn't mean that their belief is dogmatic. So he says, travel, explore, have an idea, read. Only then, well, the final thing, be cautious while listening to opinions that boost your self-esteem. With this, I'd like to conclude our session. Thank you very much, students. Thank you for being with me. Thank you. Have a good day.